We have found a common element in all the patients that suffer from anorexia. The fear that if they don't live up to the family's expectations, they're not going to be loved.
Are you saying that we don't love Karen?
No. But have you told her that you love her?
Well, naturally
We don't do things that way. You show a person, you don't tell them all the time.
Would it hurt to try?
I don't think you understand our family.
Hey, Squirt.
Hi.
Karen, come on in. Mrs. Carpenter? Go ahead.
Oh, for heaven's sake. This is ridiculous. We came 3,000 miles for this nonsense?
Hello, I'm film historian Tony Maeda.
And I'm Brad Shreve, who's just a guy who likes movies.
We discuss movies and television from Hollywood's golden age. We go behind the scenes and share our opinions, too.
And of course, being the average guy, my opinions are the ones that matter.
As does your self-delusion. Welcome to Going Hollywood. Well, all I can say is, such a feeling is coming over me. We are on top of the world today at Going Hollywood, and the reason is clear. It's because my friend Randy is here. Randy Schmidt. Welcome to the podcast, Randy.
Love the introduction. Thank you. It's maybe the best ever.
Well, I felt a little bit like, and you would get this, I felt a little bit like Judy when she was doing that Be My Guest bit on her TV show. It's Mickey Rooney. He's on my show. It's Randy Schmidt. He's on my show. Oh, I'm so happy to have you here, Randy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to join us on Going Hollywood. I'm so excited to have you because we are going to talk today about one of the, I think for me, seminal TV movies ever. And I think probably for you too. I have a feeling maybe. The Karen Carpenter Story from 1989. We're going to talk about all things Carpenter too. But first, since this is your very first time on the show, Randy, I just want to, if you'll indulge me and don't get embarrassed, I'm going to give you a little introduction. You can correct me if you want to on some of this stuff. Because I don't know, Randy is the author of, in my opinion, the seminal Karen Carpenter biography, Little Girl Blue. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's Little Girl Blue, The Life of Karen Carpenter, which I believe was a New York Times editor's choice and Wall Street Journal bestseller. Is that correct? Am I right with that?
Those are both correct. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
It's crazy.
Not only that, he has written other books on the Carpenters. One of my favorite ones, I have it right here, the Illustrated Discography, which is such a beautiful book, Randy.
You should have been a contributor to that, by the way. Now that I think about it, you would have been a great commentator to participate.
I'll be part 2. How's that?
Okay.
I'll do volume 2. But you also did Yesterday Once More, The Carpenter's Reader, and okay, just when you thought it wasn't not just Carpenters, Judy Garland on Judy Garland, Interviews and Encounters, and Dolly on Dolly? What? Interviews and Encounters with Dolly Parton. 3 of my favorite people. Karen, Judy.
My holy trinity.
It's amazing, right? It really is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if that weren't enough, okay. One of the reasons I also wanted to have Randy on here was because you created a phenomenal documentary on Karen Carpenter called Starving for Perfection. I just watched it again last night, I think for the 4th time. I own it. I think it is one of the most incredible documentaries I've ever seen on someone that we think we know so well. Everybody thinks, because the Carpenters have been such a fabric, have part of the fabric of our lives, we it seems like we know them, but there were so many amazing things about your documentary on Karen. It's called Starving for Perfection. And it is actually available now on Amazon. So people, you can absolutely watch this incredible documentary. Not only is it, Randy, and I swear I'm going to let you talk in a minute. Not only is it just a clear-eyed, honest portrait of this woman, but it's beautifully filmed. It's a beautiful, beautiful film, and features things that have never been heard before, right? There are interviews and audio tapes of Karen that no one ever heard before until your documentary. Is that right?
Yeah, some of these things were things that I sought from interviewers, radio DJs, and things like that I had heard snippets of over the years, and then I reached out and found the full, unedited interviews.
God, they're amazing. They give such insight into the woman, into her art, into her music. It's just incredible. So I'm so excited to have you on here. I'm going to put links to all these things in the show notes, people, so you can check out the documentaries, the fabulous book, Little Girl Blue, also available on Audible, which, as people who listen to this podcast know, is my favorite way to read, is on Audible. You've also done some Oz documentaries too, which I find fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about the Oz documentaries you did?
Yeah, the same production company that I worked with on the Karen documentary, they were kind of like, what are your other interests? And I kept kind of pestering them about Oz. And then I think they finally took me seriously, like, oh, you're as big into Oz, or at least were as a kid, and as you are Carpenters. And so we went off in that direction for a documentary series, a 3-part series called Mysteries of Oz. And it was actually on Amazon Prime for a while as well, but wasn't getting into the algorithm in the same way that the Karen documentary was. And so people weren't really finding it unless they were going to search for it. And even then it was difficult. So it has been re-released and is available on YouTube at this point.
Oh, that's great.
But it's a 3-part series. The subtitle is 85 Questions Answered for the 85th anniversary of the 1939 film, of course.
That's fantastic. We did one of our earliest episodes was myths. What was it? Munchkin's Myths and Madness of the Wizard of Oz. And we addressed a bunch of myths about like the munchkin that hung himself. And I was like, what the hell why would a munchkin hang themselves on the set? I mean, stupid stuff.
And they would leave it in the final print of the film, of course.
And they'd leave it in the final film. Let's just leave it in there. Nobody's going to see it. It's just nuts. But anyway, Oz aside, we are here to talk about Ms. Carpenter, the Karen Carpenter Story, and your fabulous documentary. So, I just want to say off the top, it's going to be really hard for me not to sing in this episode because I have been listening to so much over the past few days to get in this. Not that I don't listen to it anyway. Not that I'm not constantly, on a Spotify playlist. We will have the songs that we talk about in the podcast, so we will have on our Going Hollywood Spotify playlist, people. So
cool.
So you don't have to worry about, I'm not going to sing. We want people to listen, so that's fine. But because of these songs, as I said, like many people, for me, who grew up in the 70s and a little bit in the 80s, I mean, Close to You, We've Only Just Begun, Top of the World, they're all part of my childhood. And I think probably you have the same connection, right?
I was just a tiny bit behind you, not much, but I was born right at the same time as the release of the Horizon album.
That's one of my favorites.
And so I missed a lot of it firsthand. And so, talking about the Karen Carpenter Story movie is really important to me because that really was my main introduction. I had little bits of the songs in my head and, memories of certain songs like Top of the World. But at the same time, my parents listened to so much country music. I think I knew the Lynn Anderson cover of that more than I did the original Carpenter's version.
Did they play Sweet Sweet Smile? Wasn't that one? I
don't think they played Sweet Sweet Smile. I don't know that ever did quite the same on the country radio charts.
Well, it's funny because, like I said, the big ones, We've Only Just Begun, Close to You, of course, the theme from Lovers and Other Strangers, For All We Know.
For All We Know.
Always heard. But for me, too, it was the Karen Carpenter Story that really ignited my interest in the Carpenters because I, as you say in your book, and you do too, I remember it. I remember January 1st, 1989, like it was, day before yesterday. It was yesterday. But I remember very well when it was on. And I wasn't the only one watching it. You weren't the only one watching it. Highest rated movie of the year, right? And wasn't it the third highest rated program, network movie of the 80s? Is that right?
You've probably looked it up, but I would say
No, I did.
very, very possible. Okay. Very possible. Cynthia Gibb tells the story about how she went and basically hid out at her grandparents' farm in Vermont because she didn't even want to face. She was so embarrassed of the wigs and afraid of her her lip syncing and different things like that she just wanted it to kind of go away. And then she found out that the numbers, she said, they were like Super Bowl numbers as far as the amount of households that were watching the film.
It was such an event. So what was it about the Karen Carpenter story that spurred you into this life's work of studying the Carpenters and the work of Karen and the art of Karen Carpenter?
I mean, from the opening strains of Rainy Days and Mondays and just seeing it, I mean, it was obviously meant to poke at our emotions there with the opening with her death and, then young Karen roller skating around, dying Karen. I mean, it's the most dramatic opening you can even imagine. But by the end of that, I was already hooked. I wanted to know more about, not only this incredible voice that just connected with me on some level I still can't even explain, but also the story unfolding there before my eyes in such a, dramatic way was really intriguing. And there's kind of a backstory, if you don't mind me telling you, as to why I watched it in the first place.
That's why you're here, Randy. I want to talk to you. People hear me all the time.
So this is the insider scoop.
Please.
Yeah, the insider scoop is that I was probably this was a couple of years before the Karen Carpenter story, but I was on summer break from school and staying a lot with my grandma over the summer. And, as grandmas do, they watch their stories or their programs or whatever, which is the soap operas. And so I became a huge fan of The Bold and the Beautiful right around the time that it launched, I think 1987. And I, as all little gay boys growing up in Western Oklahoma would do, had a crush on one of the girls on The Bold and the Beautiful. And I sent her fan mail because not only did my grandma watch these shows, she had all the, Soap Opera Digest and all those magazines,
right? The
tie-ins. And so I wrote to 7800 Beverly Boulevard, CBS.
And I remember it well.
Sent my fan mail to this girl, Carrie Mitchum, who is an actress that is the granddaughter of Robert Mitchum. And she played the original Donna Logan on the movie, or on the soap opera.
Right.
And so she sent me the traditional response, I think, at that time, which was, an 8x10 glossy signed. And she probably thought she was done with, with this kid at that point. But then I wrote back to her, and it struck up this pen pal relationship. That. And, for me, I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world that this movie star, this TV star was giving me this attention, and that I would send her things for her birthday, like a little necklace, and she would wear it on the show and things like that. So I was crazy about Carrie at that time. And at one point she said, "Send me your number so we can talk sometime." And I remember my parents being like, "What? She's calling you?" And
a soap star calling you in Oklahoma. That's amazing.
And that very first phone call, she said, "Well, I just got my first part in a TV movie. I'm going to be playing Richard Carpenter's girlfriend in a movie about Karen Carpenter." And I'll never forget, she said, the singer who killed herself. And I thought, oh, wow, that's kind of, especially after I found out, the real story, like what an unusual way to describe that, because I mean, it could obviously be taken that way.
Yeah.
But that was the way it was kind of described to me at first. So by the time I was really just watching this TV movie to see this pen pal of mine that I was so crazy about. But by the time she came out in the story, more than halfway through, I think, I was already hooked on Karen and kind of forgetting that I was watching this for that reason. I was already, head over heels for Karen Carpenter.
Yeah, I think like for most people, I think the hook, it was the music. Mm-hmm. And the music in line with the story. I mean, you just talked about Cynthia Gibb, who plays Karen Carpenter. I just want to say that I think she's wonderful in this film. She really is wonderful. Yes, the wigs are distracting. Not her fault. You know what I mean? That's the production values of it. She gives
The lack of budget.
lack of budget. She gives such a wonderfully, for as young as she was, and I mean, she wasn't new. She had done Fame, right? And this is the amazing thing about Cynthia Gibb was so hot in the early 90s. She did Gypsy, for God's sake, with Bette Midler.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. And she was in that Dabney Coleman sitcom. What was it, Mad Men of the People or something? I mean, she was hot, hot, hot. And to go from playing Karen Carpenter to Gypsy Rose Lee you know what? I'm not going to sneeze at that resume. But she gives such a nuanced, subtle performance when she could have really gone over the top. And I don't find that at all with her in that movie. I find her so real and touching as Karen.
So likable.
So
such
likable.
The perfect kid sister, you know?
The perfect kid sister. The perfect kid sister. And I think her lip syncing's great. Listen, it's hard for anybody to lip sync to Karen Carpenter. I mean, come on. let's face it. Who wants to do that? I mean, I think she's wonderful, you know, and I know she's a friend of yours. I know that she's also she appears in Randy's documentary, Starving for Perfection. And, you know, I think the standard operating line about it is, and I want you to talk about this, is that despite the fact that the Carpenter family started this whole thing, it really got compromised and watered down. And so can you tell us a little bit about the origin of the film and how it started and the progress of what happened with that whole watering down or compromising?
Yeah, you know, it all kind of goes back to Jerry Weintraub, and he was, of course, Carpenter's manager in the late 70s and responsible for their, you know, return, or I guess debuts kind of on television with their TV specials in the late 1970s. And he was encouraging Richard Carpenter to make this movie shortly after Karen's death, because he was saying, you know, if we don't make it and tell the story as we want it told, somebody else is going to make it. And then more proof of that came, of course, with Todd Haynes and the infamous Barbie doll movie, Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story.
Yeah.
So I think they were acting in a hurried fashion so that they would hopefully ward off any others who might be, you know, going for a network television movie or a feature film or whatever it might be. Although that would be quite difficult without Richard's participation and, you know, blessing. And so, yeah, I think that ended up leading to the a kind of a falling out years later between Jerry Weintraub and Richard Carpenter, because I think Richard felt like, you know, Jerry had kind of sold his soul to the devil in that way by getting this deal and, you know, not having so much control over it. There were constant battles back and forth because, you know, Richard had a certain story he wanted to tell, and it was obvious to everybody else telling the story what the story was. I mean, they had Barry Morrow, who was the screenwriter, and he was getting the story from those who were willing to share with him. And the family was very close, you know, very tight-lipped about everything. He sat with the Carpenter parents for an afternoon, and he said, you know, it was just amazing that they didn't really have much to say, that they didn't have many memories to share about their daughter. And a lot of his information for this script ended up coming from Karen's best friend, a woman by the name of Frenda, who Frenda Franklin was one of the Carpenter's manager's wives, and they had, you know, become close friends early in the 70s, and she was really Karen's closest friend and confidant. And she, as she told me when I interviewed her for my book, she said, there aren't very many times that I like to go to Carpenter Land. She said it's too painful. And luckily for me, she finally came around shortly before my book came out and went to Carpenter Land long enough to share with me. But one of the other times was whenever she spoke with Barry, and they became, you know, really, really close. She wanted Karen's story to be told the way that, you know, she remembered her friend. And then I think Richard was upset because it was all these stories that sort of went against how he wanted his family portrayed. And so there was this back and forth, and, you know, Richard wanted another rewrite, and it got down to where I think they were, maybe they were going for the 5th or something version of this. Barry Morrow said, listen, I'm done. Like, I've done all I can do. I've told the story that I've been hired to tell. And he was also working on Rain Man at the time. So he was.
I was going to say, then he went off and said, I'm done with you. I'm going to go write Rain Man and win an Oscar. So not too shabby there for Barry.
Not at all.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. But CBS then brought in a woman by the name of Cynthia Sherbach that sort of tidied it up in a way that I guess Richard was somewhat okay with.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's interesting because we hear about how watered down it was and everything, but in the end, I think it still tells the story. I mean, there are obviously gaps and there are things that are glossed over here and there, but it still tells the story. And I think people who watch it understand what really happened there in a lot of ways. I mean, it's really kind of obvious, even.
Yeah, it gives us the bullet points. You know what I mean? And hello, what 2 hour? Not even 2 hours. It's not 2 hours. It's a TV movie. Biopics are so tricky. You know what I mean? It's impossible to tell an entire life story, even a 32-year story, because Karen died at 32, in 2 hours with commercials. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's impossible. We get the bullet points, but I think this is what's amazing to me, the genius thing, because I know there were a lot of problems. Wasn't the real sticking point, I'll just say it, isn't Agnes Carpenter the real sticking point where, what did she say to Barry when they first met, when he came to the house?
Yeah, he came to the house and the housekeeper opened the door and Agnes sort of pushed her aside and said, I want you to know I did not kill my daughter. Wow. And that's how she opened the conversation with him about this.
There's your opening line, right? I mean, I want you to know I didn't kill my daughter. I mean, so, the darkness that the family was living under from what happened to Karen, the fact that would be your opening salvo to somebody who's writing your story. So it just indicative of the fact that, unfortunately, as it's come out, Agnes is kind of the problem. Wasn't the problem with the screenplay was because Richard was upset because less Agnes, less of a villain. But the genius thing is, and we've talked about this many times on this podcast, what I call padding a character is filmmakers will frequently, in order to get a point across subtly, cast an actor or an actress who comes to the table with a persona. Oh, so like you want to cast Breakfast at Tiffany's, but you really can't say she's a sex worker. So you cast a woman who just played a nun. So you want to get the point across of Agnes Carpenter without saying Agnes Carpenter, without painting any portrait of a villain. You cast the woman who won an Oscar playing Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And everything Louise Fletcher says, she says hello. It's threatening and passive aggressive. And I mean, it was a genius casting point. It really, really was. I'm blown away by that.
They definitely knew what they were doing there.
Hadn't she just done Flowers in the Attic too? I think so.
I believe so, yeah.
I mean, it's like...
Absolutely.
It's so... that's what they do. You're getting the point across without coming out and saying it. And there's so many incredible scenes in that film that, as you just said, even though people say watered down, people say compromised, you get the point. You get the point. The painful scene in the therapist's office, which I think probably sticks with everybody. You want to tell people a little bit about that scene and the point?
Yeah, and I learned years later that one of Karen's friends, Karen Ramon, the wife of producer Phil Ramon, Karen Ramon was actually there in the meeting with them because she went to a lot of Karen's meetings with her and the therapist. I'm not sure why, but she was kind of just there for a lot of that. And Karen was living with them during some of that time. But she recounted that scene almost verbatim as to what happened there, that the therapist said, Karen, it may not be, the way that your family does things, but Karen needs to be told at times that she's loved. She needs to be not just shown, but she needs to be told. She wants, a demonstrative kind of love that is maybe out of the ordinary for the way that you were brought up, but this is what she needs. And Agnes is said to have said something like, we're from the North. We don't do things that way. And so, yeah, they tried to just get her to say, I love you. And, I don't know if it's exactly this in the movie, but Karen Ramon, who was there, said that the therapist kind of tapped Agnes's shoe with his own foot. Like, go ahead. Like, this is what we've been talking about. You can do it, kind of thing. And that she couldn't do it. She, as Louise Fletcher says, for heaven's sakes, we came 3,000 miles for this nonsense.
It's just so heartbreaking. And Cynthia Gibbs' face after she says that, the shame, the disappointment. See, that's why it's a beautiful performance. To bring people up to speed here, at this point in the story, Karen has been dealing with her eating disorder, anorexia, for a number of years. I mean, this is probably this is near the end, right? This isn't this like 70, 78, 79, 80 around there?
No, this is even further than that. She was with this was after she went to New York, so it would have been the first part of 82. So this was within the year of her death.
Oh, wow. Within the year of her death. It seems like she's getting some kind of grasp on this disease, which has taken over her life. And she just gets no support at all at this most crucial time in her life. It's devastating. And I think the scene displays that beautifully. I think it displays it beautifully. For people who don't know, I guess I should say, the story of Karen Carpenter, for if you've been living under a rock, is this incredible voice that this girl had without any training at all.
No training.
Right, Randy? None. She just opened her mouth. She was, I guess we should give a quick backstory on the Carpenters. She was, she and her brother were musicians, right? And Richard was the genius. Richard was the golden child, correct?
Exactly.
And Karen just wanted to be wherever Richard was. She just loved her brother so much. And they were a very tight family. And they came to California so Richard could pursue his music career because he is a genius musician. He is. Karen just played the drums. She just wanted to play the drums. How did the singing happen? How did it just be that she started to vocalize?
Well, Richard was doing a lot of demos of his writing at that time, and most of it was instrumental. But he had kind of written some stuff with some lyrics and wanted to do things that were more pop oriented because they started out as a jazz trio with Karen on drums, and for different I guess engagements and things that they had, they would be asked, can anyone sing this song or can you do this or that? And Karen would sometimes sing things at the request. She liked to sing. She was in choir at school, but she didn't have anything that even resembled the voice that she would grow to have later on, because she would sing in sort of a choral tone, sort of a high and light head voice. And there was a particular song that they were cutting a demo of, and Richard said, how about if we started on this note or whatever? And Karen dropped her voice. This is the kind of the tale that they tell now, but she dropped her voice down to that low note, and it entered a chest voice that she was not used to singing in, but it clicked. And from then on, that was really her new singing voice in this different range completely than she would have ever used in choral singing. Yeah.
I mean, my God, I think it's hard to say voice of the century when, you also have Judy Garland and you also have Barbra Streisand and you have a whole slew of wonderful singers. But, I think that, and that's one of the fascinating things about your documentary, and which we'll talk about after we talk about the Karen Carpenter story, but everybody's kind of grasping, not really grasping, but trying to put their mind around exactly how to describe the effect of that voice. Mm-hmm. Carol Burnett calls it a velvet hammer, which I thought was which was a great analogy. And that voice, the fact that voice just came out of her so naturally, and they built this entire career on that voice. And then, of course, Karen finally came out from behind the drums and, led the group, the Carpenters. So she became the star of the Carpenters. And I think that, you have to give Richard credit because Richard arranged everything. Richard put everything together, made that incredible sound. But it had to be very, in your documentary, people say she didn't, and help me clarify this, she didn't want to be a star. You know what I mean? She was just having fun playing her drums and singing, right? And then she kind of was thrust into this public spotlight.
I mean, I think she wanted to be successful, but it wasn't stardom that she necessarily sought. And she was fine just blending in with the group. Yeah. And, they would at first kind of have trouble of how to stage them or how to film them on television shows and stuff, because when have you had the singer behind the drums in a situation like that? And especially, a female lead singer at the drums was kind of an unusual thing for people to see.
Yeah.
And then some people thought it was a gimmick, and it was very much not a gimmick. It was her main instrument, and it was what she loved even more than singing, at least in the beginning.
Was it Carney Wilson who called her a badass on those?
Carney said all kinds of things like that.
It's
Yeah,
great.
I think she called her back.
She was, though. She was incredible on the drums. And then to have this voice just come out of you, it's so by the point in the film that she's seeing the therapist and she's dealing with her anorexia near the end of her life, and then the fact that she's almost there, but she doesn't quite make it. And just to clarify about it, you said before, obviously we know that in a way it is killing yourself, but it was not suicide as we think of suicide.
No, definitely not.
It was
Definitely not.
It was the anorexia nervosa, the effects of that. And it was also the poisoning, yeah,
there were all kinds of, she really had kind of a, oh gosh, I wouldn't even know I'm trying to think how I've described this before. Just kind of a cocktail of things that she was taking and doing at that time. One of the ones that, of course, is pointed to most is the syrup of ipecac that she would take to induce vomiting. So things like that, and then taking, things to speed her metabolism, Synthroid, things where she didn't have an issue with thyroid, but she was taking medications for it. She really had become a student of eating disorders and researched what other people with eating disorders were doing. And I think by the time she realized that, it was too late by the time she realized what she had done to her body or was continuing to do and couldn't really stop. It was obviously like an addiction in some ways.
Yeah, well, I think someone in the documentary, I can't remember who it is. Oh, it's probably Cynthia Gibb, said that it starts as an emotional affliction and it becomes a physiological.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Cynthia.
It's your body. Then it's like any addiction. It's like a drug addiction. It starts out as one thing, and then your body becomes depend on that and actually fights against you. So it's like when people say, why didn't you just eating? Well, that's not it. Her body is now fighting against everything because of what she's done to it, which is what's so tragic and what's so sad, and what causes someone to die at age 32 of a heart attack.
Right.
One of the fascinating things I think about the movie, the Karen Carpenter movie, and one of the kind of freaky things is the fact that it was filmed in their house with Harold and Agnes right in the next room while they were filming scenes.
Right.
Cynthia Gibb wore all of her clothes, right? Everything Cynthia Gibb wore was what...
Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit about what Cynthia Gibb said about the array of costumes and the sizes?
Yeah, she talked about it. She said it was kind of like a... well, she went through all of the outfits, and she said they were almost arranged like chronologically. And so you could see it change in size. And she said that it went from, clothes that were much too large for her to wear to things that she couldn't even squeeze into. And she remembered being sort of left alone with Karen's things. And she said she just felt this energy or this presence of somebody there. And she said, she really couldn't explain it, but then the other wardrobe people and stuff came back in and that presence sort of disappeared. But she just remembered feeling so close to Karen in that moment, being surrounded by her things. And of course, like you said, filming in the homes and driving the cars and things you would never do. Even if you had the opportunity to do that today, they would never do that in filmmaking, more than likely.
No, of course not. Of course not. And then how does an actor do that? That's not the process, okay? You're trying to create a character and you've got the real people
Looming.
You can talk to them, but they shouldn't be in the next room, while you're trying to be truthful here. And didn't you even say, and this is really the funniest thing, what about the paramedics who were in the movie? Weren't they the same paramedics who came to...
Exactly. She said she was talking to them between takes, and that two of the paramedics who were there, because they had just called a local paramedic team, or I guess you might say, to come and be there as sort of extras for this shoot. And the two of the guys who were carrying her out were there for the actual event that happened. This was 87, so 4 years. It was 87. No, it was for beginning of 88.
Amazing.
So 5 years.
It's meta at a
Yes.
different level, like another level of meta. It's so, yeah, I think that the thing about the film is, as we said, is the fact that it presents the music. It presents the music. It presents a truthful, be it, shortened version of what happened in this life. And yes, that's artistic license is how these films are made. I mean, I can't tell you how I always talk about artistic license versus artistic licentiousness. And there are some movies out there which I'm like, nothing in that is true. Nothing in that is true. How dare you? I'm not going to say what it is but people know. And then there's other things that try. And I really feel like this film is the latter. This film tried. This film really tries to present a truthful portrait of Karen. And I think in many ways succeeds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, in most ways.
Yeah.
And I think even the people making it right at the time thought, oh man, I don't think this got the story across in the way we wanted to. But it overall, especially looking back, it really did. And as you mentioned, got the music out there. How many new fans came to the music from this?
One right here, one hosting this podcast. I'll tell you right now.
Well, I had a VHS tape of it that I recorded that night that it aired, and I couldn't find any of the albums in stores right away. So I was, I did what we all did as kids and sat down with my tape recorder next to the TV and made my own little soundtrack of those snippets. So
I get it. I did that too. I did that with All of My Life because I couldn't find All of My Life on any Carpenter CDs. So I did that because I made a mixtape, of course. It was the 80s, people. Relax. I made a mixtape of the Carpenters, and I had that little snippet of All of My Life on it because that's in the movie. That's when she discovers her voice. That's when she discovers her Karen Carpenter voice, which is amazing. Oh. So this film, the film inspired you, obviously, the Little Girl Blue, the Carpenter's books. How did this documentary come into being, Randy? Starving for Perfection, Karen Carpenter.
So there was a friend of a friend, as they say, kind of the same way that the Carpenter's demo tape made it to Herb Alpert. I think that's how they describe it. A friend of a friend.
Good friend.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy I knew who knew of my book, and he told this producer in Dallas, which isn't far from me. I'm just north of Dallas in Denton, Texas. He said, the Karen Carpenter guru lives up the road in Denton, Texas. You should reach out to him. I know him. And this guy said, oh, really? I read that book when it came out. And so this was probably like 2018 or so. And the book had already been out for about 8 years. And so this guy, Andy Streitfeld, who has AMS Pictures in Dallas, reached out and said, hey, I hear that you're the author of this book that I read. Maybe come in and see if we can do something together. So I went in and we were trying to come up with different ways to tell Karen's story. And part of me still wishes that I had dove in solo album first. I think that would be a fun way to dig into Karen's story still. But
we'll definitely talk about the solo album. So
but yeah, he said let's do a documentary, and we started working on it. And right about the time we had probably 6 or 8 interviews done, COVID hit, and so everything shut down. And a lot of the interviews that we had on tap for that, we didn't ever get to do, and we didn't get to return to them, unfortunately. Terry Ellis, one of Karen's boyfriends, is one that I really wanted to get. And so we had a few people say that they would do it, but because of COVID, we had to postpone. And but that's how it began, and that's the only reason that it took as long as it did to do. It didn't come out till 2023. So there was, at least 4 years in there, so that we were kind of off and on working on this.
Well, I mean, but the people that you did get, I'm thinking primarily, this had to be Olivia Newton John's last interview.
It was definitely the last time she spoke about Karen. Unless she was asked in some other interview, but she had just a few interviews after that.
What a wonderful, wonderful thing to have her. What a wonderful thing to have her in your documentary. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God. And Suzanne Summers. God, one of her last, I'm sure too. I mean, Olivia, we knew had been battling cancer and in remission, and her health was precarious. But Suzanne Summers' death, I think, was shocking to a lot of people. But you had her in there in your documentary too.
Yeah,
which is very exciting, because I don't think people think of Suzanne Summers when they think of Karen Carpenter. You know what I mean? It's such an interesting take. And I loved Suzanne Summers in your documentary. I thought she was so clear-eyed about some things and so wonderful. And she was so astute about so much of what she said when they appeared together in the what was that? Was that a Star Wars type special?
It was, Space Encounters television special.
But hello, you also had the lady herself. I mean, what was it like? Were you with Carol Burnett when you talked to her? Did you sit down?
I so wish. I wish I was. So that happened in a kind of a strange way. AMS was also working on an I Love Lucy documentary.
Of course
for
they
Reels,
were.
For the Reels network.
Of course they were.
And so that was where they got the budget and everything to get Carol, because Carol comes with, of course, the glam package and all of those things that you have to, be able to guarantee when you interview someone like that.
Yeah.
And so they were interviewing her for the Lucille Ball Reels thing. And I sent along 5 or 6 questions that they were able to tag on at the end. So unfortunately, I didn't get to sit across from her. I wish. But yeah, they were able to at least ask those questions. And I thought for such a short amount of time that they got her to talk about Karen, she really got into it. And there's some beautiful emotional moments and things that she was able to, tap into there.
Very beautiful. Those harmonies when they show the clip from the Carol Burnett show where they're singing, "Do you know the way?" The Berkeley accent.
Well, she had no prompting.
She gets emotional.
She had no prompting.
None.
We didn't show her anything from it. This was all total recall from, and she was, singing in the right key, I think. Even.
Amazing. Well, she's Carol Burnett after all. One of the saddest things I actually worked on the Carol Burnett 50th. That was on 2017. So I did get to work with Carol. But I was supposed to talk with her on a Lucy Show DVD years and years ago, and it never worked out, which made me so sad, because I thought, God, it'd be amazing to sit down with Carol Burnett, but to have her in your documentary, remembering so clearly and being so moved and touched by Karen. I mean, Karen was in her 20s. Singing with Carol Burnett and those harmonies.
21, 22, yeah.
I cannot sing harmony. To save my life, I can't sing harmony. And I can barely sing melody. And to be able to do that at 22 with Carol Burnett on a live show in front of an audience, astounding. But you also, as I said, you also had, no, I didn't say, but you did have Kristin Chenoweth on too. That was amazing as well. And she had such... You don't necessarily think of Kristin Chenoweth again with Karen Carpenter, Well,
that was the thing. I wanted to bring a blend of people who both knew and worked with Karen personally, but also those who were inspired by her. And so that's how we got, the Carney Wilson and Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, another one.
And Kristin Chenoweth, because I really started digging for who are the people that have, credited Karen Carpenter as being an inspiration. Who are the people who have, listened to her growing up? And so, Belinda Carlisle is telling the story about singing Close to You into her hairbrush when she was a teenager. And these are things you just would never imagine. And then, of course, with Kristin, talking about singing in the same key, she broke into Yesterday Once More, When I Was Young, and she was in the exact key. This is not someone who sings low either.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Baubles, bangles, and beans. I mean, my God, Kismet. Or not Kismet. Yeah, Kismet. Anyway, never mind. Go ahead.
No, she was exactly on pitch, and it was so cool because we could do that crossover with her singing with Karen, and I never would have thought if she just picked a note out of the air that it would end up being the same key that Karen sang it in, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I loved Cherry Boone. Tell the people a little bit about what Cherry Boone talked about in the documentary.
So Cherry Boone was the daughter of Pat Boone, and was one of the first, I guess, celebrity types that might have come forward with their battle with anorexia. She wrote a book in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, and Karen heard about this, heard that the book was in progress, and reached out to Cherry. And
That's amazing.
I know, because Karen was not admitting that she herself had anorexia at the time to anyone, even her closest friends. It was like late 81, right before she went to New York, before she even spoke the words to her circle of girlfriends. And, but she reached out to Cherry saying, hey, you know, I've heard that you have been battling the same thing, basically. And so Cherry says that she sent her an early copied manuscript of her book. And so, yeah, she encouraged her several times, almost always in phone calls, I think. I don't know that they met in person. They had met in person before, but not after this book situation.
Right.
But yeah, Cherry kept encouraging her to get away from everything and focus only on that. And instead, Karen went for, you know, the Hollywood version of a therapist. You know, this guy, Stephen Levenkron, had written a book called The Best Little Girl in the World, which had become a TV movie.
Right.
And Karen thought, well, you know, if he's, you know, the kind of the famous guy, that's who I'm going to go to. Cherry was saying, like, you need to remove yourself from LA, remove yourself from New York, remove yourself from that pace. And unfortunately, Karen did not take her advice in that way because she wanted a quick fix. I think she just thought if she went through the motions that she'd be able to say, look, I did it, I addressed it, let's move on. And I don't know that she ever fully committed in the way that she would have had to.
Well, yeah, your recovery has to be paramount. I mean, that's just what has to be in order to. I mean, this disease is cunning and sly, and you know, is in control, basically. And I think that, you know, what amazes me about it is though also the time. I mean, nobody knew about anorexia at this time. You know, it was not like Karen, unfortunately. You know, it's kind of sad that Karen Carpenter became the face of anorexia nervosa and brought it into the public consciousness. So thank God for that. It's unfortunate that that has to be the story. But anorexia isn't like it is today. I think about girls I was in high school with who got treatment and nobody said the word anorexia. Nobody said that. You know, they have problems eating or they're not, you know, it wasn't, that's one of the sad results of the Karen Carpenter story is the fact that we now are very aware of the sad good results, I guess, that we are now very aware what anorexia nervosa is and what how it can be a deadly disease. And she, you know, nobody knew in the 70s. So I think it's amazing that she had that conversation with Cherry Boone. And you got to talk to Cherry in your documentary about it too.
Yeah.
Very moving. I knew nothing about that. That was amazing. That was amazing to me. What I love about your documentary too are the sound bites, the interviews that have never been heard before. Can you tell people a little bit about that? I mean, you get Karen literally in her own words, speaking about things.
Yeah, I think one of the best sources that we had for this was a couple of interviews. One main studio interview that a guy by the name of Charlie Tuna, not the tuna rep, not the fish on the tuna can, but his name was Charlie, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Charlie Tuna.
Sorry, Charlie. Yeah.
Charlie Tuna, the radio DJ. I had reached out to him back when I was working on my book, hoping that there was, you know, the full interview, because I had heard clips that he did, and he had put them on the radio shortly after Karen's death, just as kind of a tribute to her. But it was like 30 seconds here and, you know, 15 seconds of this and that. And my hope was that the whole thing existed. And he almost immediately sent me the full, like, 60-minute or so interview tape back then. And I transcribed it and used, you know, pieces of it here and there in my book. And then whenever my book came out, he had me on his show, on a radio show he was doing for K-Earth at the time. Mm-hmm. And so we talked a little bit about Karen. It was interesting, though. They couldn't play any of her music. They could only play what was already pre-programmed. And he said that's, you know, the changes in radio in all these years. I can't play her, but we can talk about her.
Exactly.
So anyway, he had given me that, and shortly after I was on his program, he passed away in, you know, the next couple of years after that. So I reached back out to his sons and asked, you know, permission for us to use it in this documentary. And they were both, you know, very welcoming of that idea. And so a lot of that comes from the interview that they sat down and did together in 1976. There's also some radio interviews that he did with her. He would call her every year on her birthday.
Is he the one who woke her up? Is he the one who calls her and wakes her up?
Yeah, that's the one where we use that part where he wakes her up and then asks her.
You get just a clip of what these people had to go through. He wakes her up. I'd be like, call later, dude. What's going on? But this was their life. This is what she went through. Right. Waking her up to talk about what she thinks love is. What?
What's the meaning of love?
What's the meaning of love? Hi, can I have a cup of coffee first? Can I have a sip of my coffee before I answer the meaning of life, please?
Exactly. I think it definitely shows what she was going through at the time.
Incredible.
But yeah, that was one, or he actually had, those through the years, telephone interviews that he would do when he would just call her up. And you'd hear the doorbell ringing, dun, 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 in the background. And there was another one, a guy by the name of Gary Thoreau, who did this interview of both Karen and Richard shortly after the release of the Christmas album in '78. And it was all transcribed and printed. And I just kind of went out on a limb and reached out to this guy and said, is there any chance you recorded it? Or I was sure he did, just because of the way it was transcribed in that. It was kind of, one of those magazines you'd pick up on the street corner for free. I can't remember what it was, but
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, absolutely. And he sent me, in that case, again, over an hour or so of interview that he did with Karen and Richard in their office there on the lot at A&M Records. So that was another really good one. We were able to mix all of those, bits and pieces from all of those to create this.
It's so wonderful to hear it and to hear this in her words. As much as I love the Karen Carpenter story, this is a production, this is a film, but this is the real thing. And what I also love about what you do in the documentary is you see the progression. Unfortunately, you see the progression of this disease and how it eventually took its toll on her. And I think about the time of I always think she looked great about the time of Horizon, which I think was 75.
Yeah, gorgeous.
She looked fantastic. And people always said, if you just could have stopped. But you can't. It's disease. You just can't stop. That's the thing. That's the insidiousness of this disease. And you see her all up into that sad British interview, where the interviewer kind of sabotages. Not sabotages.
Yeah, in a way,
pounces on her. It's assaults her. I don't know. I can't think of the word right now.
Yeah.
But about her weight loss, and you just see in her eyes, what? You know what I mean? It's like she's assaulted by these words when this British interviewer asks her, "You tell the people. I can't. What does she say to her?"
I think she said something like 6 stone in weight, and then Karen says, "I don't know what 6 stone in weight even means." And then she translates
like 80 pounds,
and she says, "No, of course not." But she
ambush.
She definitely did. I don't think expected to be confronted in that way.
No, and she ambushes her. That's the word I was trying to think of. This British interviewer ambushes Karen about her weight, and just the look in her eye, like, what? We're here to talk about Made in America. We're not here to talk about, my weight. And the fact that she accuses her of being about 80 pounds at one point, and Karen's like adamant, in denial. And then you say later in your documentary, she was down to 78 pounds or something like that in the 70s?
When she first went into treatment, 78, 77 pounds.
God, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. It's horrifying. The documentary is so, as I said, it's so clear-eyed, it's so balanced, and so beautiful at the same time. And I love, as I said, when people are trying to put their minds around how to describe this voice. Carol Burnett, the Velvet Hammer. Olivia Newton John said she was an old soul, because you're like, how does this 20-year-old have this pain, this depth of pain and knowledge of life in her voice?
Yeah. And the ability to convey it in such a conversational way.
I mean, so there had to be, I don't know, maybe she was an old soul. Maybe Olivia's right. She was a reincarnation. Who knows? Or maybe it's the past of her childhood, or what she went through in her childhood. But that voice, we got to talk about that voice. I have certain soft spots for certain songs. I got to ask you, as the Carpenter Maven. What did the guy call you? Not the Carpenter Maven, the Guru.
You guru.
Do you have a favorite song? Do you have a favorite child, Randy?
My favorite single is Superstar.
Mine too. Mine too.
I mean, if there's a song I'm going to try to win somebody over to the Carpenters with, that would be it, because it's got like a hard edge to it, but it's kind of like the Velvet Hammer that, Carol Burnett talks about.
Don't you remember you told me you loved me, babe? Don't you remember that? Oh my God.
Gut-wrenching.
I think every performance of I love Bette Midler's too. Bette Midler's version is gut-wrenching, but Karen's, it's so mournful and soulful and oh God, yeah.
Yeah, so that's my favorite. I also love from I guess some of the album tracks, like Road Ode comes to mind. That's a favorite. And of course, A Song for You. I still can't believe they didn't do an edited version to like a shortened version and release that.
Yeah,
because Richard will talk about it was too long. Same thing with This Masquerade. These things could have been slightly edited for radio if they had to keep it under the whatever magic 4-minute mark or whatever 3 minutes.
Yeah. I tell you, I have a very special place in my heart for calling occupants of interplanetary craft. I love it. I put it on and it makes me happy. I find it so cool. I love that album. I love Passage. I love Two Sides too. When she says that they just caught a flight, goodbye.
Yeah,
the two sides. It's such a wonderful little flip at the end. Goodbye. And I love Those Good Old Dreams from Made in America. It's like a top of the world song to me. It's bouncy and fun, and I get that. But I think probably the most gut wrenching, other than this solo album, which we're going to talk about, and Karen said this too in your documentary, is I Need to Be in Love.
I Need to Be in Love. Yeah.
The hardest thing I've ever done is keep believing there's someone in this crazy world for me. Oh my God. It's her life story.
There was so much pressure on her too to get married and have a family. She's only 26 years old, and at the time she recorded that, and she was like worried that her life was over.
Yeah.
20s.
There was crazy.
Yeah, so such a huge pressure to put on somebody, but I think she thought she had to be, had to have that to.
Be perfect?
Maybe. The idea of perfection. And also I think she was seeking the love that maybe the family wasn't showing, seeking that from somebody else.
Yeah. And there's a perfection line in that song too. I mean, it's a gut-wrenching song. But I think the biggest gut-wrenching thing of all is the solo album. So I just want to briefly touch on that in our last few minutes. Because make believe it's your first time. If I ever want to turn somebody on to the Carpenters, I mean, yes, the usual suspects, Superstar, Rainy Days and Mondays, yes. Make believe it's your first time. From the solo album, not the one that Richard later did. From the solo album, she sings The Way It Ought to Be. And the B, the E sound, which is a closed sound. I mean, I'm not a singer and I know that. Is so gorgeous. It's so resonant. It's just, your heart explodes when she sings that song. Do you like that song? I should ask you.
I do. I love it. And I love the simplicity of it. I mean, it's just basically her and piano and then some other instruments sneak in underneath. But
it's so sad that that album, you wonder, and you posit this. Is that the right word? You posit this? You pose this question in your documentary. I wonder how her life would have turned out had that album not been ridiculously rejected by A&M and by Richard.
Well, yeah, I always think I think she could have taken rejection from the public or record buyers, either liking it or not, that kind of thing, more than she could the people that she loved and trusted the most, to make her think that it wasn't even worthy of release.
It just boggles your mind. It boggles your mind that they would say this beautiful album, My Body Keeps Changing My Mind. It's one of my favorite disco songs ever. It's so much fun. How could they possibly think that this was unreleasable? It's Karen Carpenter.
Yeah. And they acted like they were protecting her by doing it. Like that.
Right? I mean, it really, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder a lot of things. You do a lot of what ifs. How would her life have been different had they not done that? How would her career have been different? Would we have got Made in America? We've got a lot more Carpenters albums instead of what we keep getting now, which is Richard reissuing the Carpenters in different forms. I love the Philharmonic album. I think, but you just got to wonder what that last little like stomach punch did to that woman.
Yeah, because,
to say no.
I think it was Frenda who mentioned to me, her best friend Frenda said that, the Carpenter family had this idea that you could only be one thing, and that if you tried to do anything outside of that, if you tried to veer off, and that you couldn't do more than one thing. So the idea that if she did a solo album, she was saying goodbye to the Carpenters. Not that she could come back and record a Carpenters album occasionally.
Exactly.
But I mean, when you look at what pop singers today are doing, as far as what they endorse or what they, they go off and do a movie or they go do this or that.
Yeah.
There's a million possibilities. But I think at that point in time, it was seen as, if you do this, you're abandoning Richard.
Yeah. It's so very sad. I think it's one of the biggest tragedies of her life is the fact she wasn't given that vote. In many ways, she wasn't given a vote of confidence, but that is
Right.
a public slap in the face by your family, by A&M Records. They're all culpable for that.
Well, and she would have never, had the solo album been released, she would have never gotten into the marriage that she got into.
Right.
It was only because of the timing with that, and because the album was shelved, and she was just like, I think she was just like, I have no control over anything. Well, now I'm going to try to take control over this, at least now my love life. Because it was just weeks after the shelving of that album that she got into the relationship with Tom Burris and was quickly married within just a few months.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I blame the solo album shelving for that even having the opportunity to happen.
It's just, it's so very sad. It's so very sad. But I don't want to focus on the sad. I want to focus on the incredible legacy that this woman, this bright, brilliant light left us, that we still can listen to today and just be moved and touched. And it's, yeah, that's what it is. It's funny. We were just talking about, not too long ago, we talked about Natalie Wood on the podcast. And I said, the point of Natalie Wood is not her death. The point is her life. That's what we need to focus on. Not what happened when she died, but this incredible body of work she left before that night off Catalina Harbor. And same thing with Karen Carpenter. I really want to stress, let's think about the years that we had her from 60, when was Ticket to Ride?
First recording,
Offerings.
the first recording for A&M was 69.
69 to 80.
To 81.
81. And we have other things too that after she recorded, they were released posthumously, like Now. Voices of the Heart. Is that what it's called? Voice of the Heart,
yeah.
Voice of the Heart. Love
Lines.
Oh, I love
the Love Lines album.
Love Lines is wonderful. So we have that to focus on. And just be grateful that she was in our life. She really was. Well, wow. Thank you so much, Randy, for joining me today. We could talk about Karen Carpenter and the Carpenters because you are the guru. You are the man. But I've just enjoyed talking to you so much today. Listener, please do yourself a favor and watch Randy's tremendous documentary, Starving for Perfection. It's Karen Carpenter, Starving for Perfection.
That's correct.
It's, as I said, clear-eyed, non-sensational, beautifully presented, beautifully shot, great interview subjects. It's available on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And also, of course, your fabulous books, particularly Little Girl Blue, as I said, I think is just such a wonderful, wonderful book.
Thank you.
I'll leave a link in the show notes for all of it. So anyway, I just want to say, as usual, to everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Brad is coming back. I talked to him. He is coming back. He'll be back in a couple weeks, and we're going to wrap up our second season of the show. Thank you for being with me. And in the meantime, please don't forget to tell your friends about the podcast. Oh, Randy, I should ask you to tell the people, where can people find you, contact you if you want to be contacted, find out more about your fabulous work?
Well, Instagram, the profile is Suntory Pop, SUNTORYPOP, little Carpenter's Insider thing there. And I do still have randylschmidt.com that I'm going to be revamping soon, but you can at least drop me an email from that site at this point, even though it's not complete.
That's great. Thank you. So, of course, you can get in touch with us at Going Hollywood Pod at gmail.com. Please drop us a line. Let us know your thoughts. If you have suggestions for something you want us to talk about, please do. Please do. And don't forget what Brow's always saying, you know the drill, rate, review, blah, 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 blah. I don't have to tell you that. I did want to give one final thing, a special shout out to my friend John in Wheeling, West Virginia, because he truly brought the Carpenters to me. He introduced me to your books, Randy. He is a primo Carpenters aficionado. We are out there. We're all out there. So thank you, John. I guess then that leaves us with only one thing left to say. And Randy, please promise not to cringe when I do this.
We'll see.
But listeners, I want to thank you for staying with me during this interesting period we've gone through as we've been Bradless. It's been an interesting journey. I've enjoyed it a lot, talking to people. But mostly you've been there for me, listeners, and I want to thank you for that. Because I want to say, there's no getting over that rainbow when my smallest of dreams won't come true. I can take all the madness this podcast world has to give, but I won't last a day without you. Oh, God. If they're not going to pull me yet, they're going to pull me for that. Bye, everybody.
That's all, folks.